All right, I'm ready when you are.
All right, ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me hear you.
Test. Hello, hello, hello. Hello.
Go ahead.
Test.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Mm.
Check.
There we go. Now I can.
All right, you ready?
Yes, sir.
It's time for the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. Blake Sloan, one of the top real estate agents, not only on the Grand Strand, but in the world. He's been featured in Forbes magazine, the Wall Street Journal, NBC, and many other publications. And now, the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan.
Welcome to Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. Huge news this week. Obviously, we got some big presidential news last week. Trump back elected again into office, 47 presidents coming in. So we'll talk about what does that have to do with real estate market. Get lots of questions about that. We had so many people that were kind of in a holding pattern up to the election, leading up to it. We also have some data that always shows what happens after presidential elections usually, but this one will be different because we had experience before, back in 2016. And I think we're going to see very, very similar results as last time. Lots of confidence. Our phones have been blowing up. So we'll talk about that and kind of what's going on and what to look for as a home seller. We'll talk about also how that may affect some seasonality where things are a little bit different. We're going to see some major changes. So we'll talk about that. We have the brand new market numbers in from last month. We talked briefly on that last show. They were still kind of fresh, but now they're really pretty much solidified from last month and very, very interesting, right? We kind of saw median average price drop for the first time together in last week's show. So we'll talk about that, kind of look what's going on there. Very, very interesting news regarding interest rates. The Federal Reserve met this last week, and ironically, it didn't have much of an effect on interest rates for mortgages because after the election, the stock market went crazy, which leaves some money out the bond market. We'll talk about what happened there. So after the election, you saw rates go up. They actually came back down late last week. We'll talk about what's going on, what to look for going forward, and what that overall strategy coming in from the Fed, what that looks like in terms of home values. A lot of people predicting we'll get back to low sixes by end of this year, first of next year. So that's going to be a lot different for fourth quarter. We'll look at that. We also have this is one of I talk about this all the time. Another horror story. This one, this happened this past week, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to film this and make a case study about it. You can go on the blog and check it out. I'll talk about it later. But these homeowners, they went to save 3% in their commission and cost themselves 29% of their home value. Sold it for 29% below what it was worth, and even what the computer model said what it's worth, which is crazy, by going with a discount agent who was their neighbor who lived here part-time. So we'll talk about that story, and this is the whole reason why we do this show. We'll talk about that. Also, our fund just bought 2 more properties this past week, just closed on one on Friday, where it's instant cash buyout, some property with acreage out in Conway, and they just wanted instant cash buyout. They were buying something else. Very fair price. They felt good about it. We came in, paid them what they want. Very fair offer. Close cash as soon as they want to, around their schedule. And we continue to do that every single week. So we'll talk about that. Also, we have scholarship out there. We're ramping our team up as we always do. We've been growing as most agents been running for the hills. We have a scholarship opportunity. We'll talk about that on today's show as well.
For any new listeners, just to give you an update on just who Blake is, it's an amazing story. Industry leaders have dubbed him the real estate whiz kid. Been featured in Forbes, Wall Street Journal, NBC, Realtor Magazine, and many other national publications. He has been personally endorsed by Sean Hannity and Glenn Beck. One of those by itself is an accomplishment, but all of them together is unprecedented. Last week, we learned a little about how you and your team work and how a good portion of your success has come from the trademark systems you have developed to help both buyers and sellers here in our market. Recap quickly for anyone new to the show what those are exactly, and a quick overview of how they work, Blake.
Absolutely. This is that whole reason why we did the show. I made a promise years ago that I was going to keep talking about this in every single show, because it's by far the number one problem I ever experienced. By far the number one thing that costs home sellers their hard-earned money over and over and over, just like this last example that I was talking about last week. I get these every week, and this is just one that's very specific, very relative to us, because we actually met with them, and we didn't go through price or anything because we just talked what we did. They liked us a lot. They ended up going with their neighbor friend who they told us in that meeting, hey, he's offering a low commission. It's what he wants to do. And we'll talk about what that played out, but it cost them 29% of their hard-earned equity and what their property is worth just by that one decision. So the biggest mistake that everyone makes. And the whole reason I do this show is just to get across through people's heads that, look, the biggest mistake anyone makes is thinking that all real estate agents are the same. It could not be any further from truth. Just like any doctor, any lawyer, right? If you're charged with a crime you didn't commit, or you have a civil case against you trying to take all your assets, the last thing I want is some part-time attorney who's the cheapest attorney who's tried a few cases, right? I want the absolute best, most aggressive attorney who specializes in that type of law, who also has experience in that type of law to represent me, so I have a competitive advantage in the courtroom. And you should demand the same level of excellence for your largest asset, right? But people don't do that. They just group them all together, which is crazy. Just like a doctor, right? Some doctors are amazing. Some doctors not so good at all. And we see this happen all the time. And so if I have a life-threatening illness that's very, very serious, I'm not going to go to the doc in the box down the street and just hope that he or she can treat me, right? I want a specialist who has experience, who's very good at what they do, because that's life or death in that scenario. And so you want like that, because all this comes down to service-based industry, right? They're all have to do with people. And so the people you choose help determine your outcome. And so what most people don't realize, when you're selling your property, the single most important variable that determines your success or failure comes down to one thing and one thing only, and that thing is the agent that you choose, period. Well, why is that? Well, when you sell a property, there's 118 different variables from A to Z. How do we know that? Well, we obviously sat down, wrote them all out, figured out, okay, what has to happen in the right order through an entire sale process so that you can get the property closed for the most amount of money. It was 118 of them. And so what most people don't do is the agents don't even know what they are. Most of them are just winging it, doing the 3 Ps. They promise you the world to get the listing, and they tell you anything and everything to get that listing. Usually they're number one, right? They'd always say they're number one. The second thing they do is they put it into MLS, the multiple listing service. And 3, they sit back and pray that someone else brings a buyer. And meanwhile, they're down the street trying to get the next listing, because that's how they're trying to survive. And how that plays out is the average agent in our marketplace sells less than 4 homes per year. That's 1 per quarter. There's not any money to eat with, much less spend in marketing to get your property differentiated, which is why the only thing that you can do to get differentiation is to actually reduce the price. And so we see this happen over and over and over. That's why almost 50% of properties aren't selling right now in MLS. They're sitting there for the full 6-month period. They're not selling. They're having to relist with someone else, or relist with the same agent. And you're seeing this happen. Even right now, the average days on market is well over 100 days, many cases 120, 130 days on the market. And so the only real option most sellers have is just flat out reduce the price. And what happens there is you end up giving your hard-earned equity away. And so when I got in the business, I'm like, man, there's got to be a better way. I was at Coldwell Banker. It was me and 200 plus agents. They didn't care about me. I didn't care about them, right? There's no alignment from the business model standpoint. And so, like I mentioned before on the show, a lot of them would try to steal my leads if they heard me talking about the phone number over the cubicle. And so it's just very much a broken industry. And so what I found was, it's like having the same person do everything. One agent's working with buyers, they're working with sellers, they're driving buyers around to different neighborhoods, they're showing properties, right? They're writing contracts, they're trying to do listings, they're trying to do marketing, they're trying to do follow-up. They're trying to do contract to close, their inspections. It's simply impossible for one single agent to juggle all those balls, 118 of them, just on one listing and be effective at it. And so it's like having the same person at McDonald's do the front register, the drive-thru, and French fries at the same time. I say it over and over and over, but I'm going to keep saying it until I don't get these horror stories anymore. And so what I did, I said, look, there's got to be a better way. How do you basically flip the business model upside down and make sure we can handle all those variables proactively with a team of people and technology to make you execute the highest level? And that's exactly what I did. I designed this thing called the Guaranteed Sold System. It's the only proven system that sells twice as fast and for up to 20% more money than traditional methods. And it works very, very, very well. I designed it. We licensed other agents in other parts of the country, but it's very, very proactive and really effective because we back it with lots of money in terms of marketing, advertising. But what the key part is, we have a team of specialists. Everyone specializes in that part of the transaction and that part of the process, so they can really nail it down at the highest level. And so we have inside sales, we have outside sales, we have listing specialists, buyer specialists, closing coordinator, listing coordinator, in-house videographer, photographer, in-house graphic design, all those things, so I can manage the variables proactively and not have a generalist who's not good at everything, right? A generalist can do decent at a lot of things, but they're not really good at anything. And so that's why you want a team of specialists. We back that up with technology. We spent multiple 6 figures in technology over the past few years to allow us to make sure we can execute at the highest level. And you add those up with a large marketing budget. We outspend the average agent 100 to 1 from a marketing standpoint, so I can drive more traffic to it. That's how we sell properties faster and for more money. And so it just comes down to the efficiencies, and it comes down to the major details. So if you're thinking about selling, you owe it to yourself to at least investigate the process. Most home sellers, they don't know what questions to ask. They don't ever ask the right questions, right? The number one question I always ask is, how much do you charge? That's not the right question, right? The right question is, what type of experience do you have? How can you sell a house the most amount of money? What makes you different than anybody else? Those are the questions you want to ask. And then you find the right value based on your current scenario or current situation, or you find who's the best fit. And so if you want to know more, reach out. Call me 843-808-SOLD. It's so important when you're talking about your largest asset to make sure you pick the right agent. If any of those variables are dropped or mismanaged, it costs you your hard-earned equity in the process. On the buyer side, the same exact thing there. They're just different variables, 100 plus variables on the buy side, usually the opposite of the seller transaction. And so if each one's handled correctly, it saves you money, right? You get the property you want. Anything handled incorrectly, it costs you money, or you miss out on that property that you want. So I designed this thing called the Unfair Advantage Home Buying System. Gives party access to foreclosures, distress sales, desperate sellers, the absolute best negotiation and purchase price, as well as a home inspection to get you that closing table successfully. And so if you want to know more, reach out, call me, 843-808-SOLD. A perfect example I just wanted to share was that example. I won't give their names, but it's a couple that we met with, an older couple. The house is in North Myrtle Beach, very, very nice house. And they actually were moving to a retirement home down in Charleston. So they wanted to get the most amount of money, called us, reached out to us. They initially wanted an investment offer, but they need a little more money. So we showed them, hey, look, you can sell it, get $300,000 for it. Here it is. Here's kind of what's, the comps are. We didn't give an exact price. We don't ever really give an exact price until we know that we're a fit, because it based on, timeline, things like that. So came down to, they were interviewing a friend who was a neighbor who was a discount agent and said, hey, we'll do the whole thing for 1.5%, which is crazy, which means they're not paying any buyer commission to buyers out there, which just makes it less desirable. And so what happened was, the house is worth $300,000. All the online sites like Zillow, we have one that we use called NARPR, which basically shows all the data and has a price. The price there shows what the value is based on all the data, $300,000. They list the property at $211,000 and it sells within 24 hours. Of course it does, because you underpriced it, right? And so it's one of those things that you look at, went back and looked at it, and was like, oh my gosh. And it even shows on the NARPR site, which is what realtors use, has a lot of data, county data, tax data, other comps, and all that stuff. And it just says flat out there, listed at 71% of approximate value. And it just shows there that's 29% below where it could have sold very, very, very quickly. But what happens is, this is the example I talk about all the time, where people just step over dollars to pick up pennies. And so they're so worried about saving money on the front end, they gave away $80,000 plus on the back end, because they obviously wanted to save that little money. I see this happen over and over. And I'm not saying you should pay the most, but I'm saying you owe it to yourself to have a true expert. Look up the agent. I reach out to the agent and say, look, you should be ashamed of yourself. And we kind of had a conversation, but exchange, you would say. I said, look, man, you cost these people $80,000 in doing this. You know, you underprice it. You can't even buy mobile homes in this area with land for that price, but you gave away this perfectly nice single family home for $211,000. Absolute steal. Like I said, it would have sold with a couple of days at 300. They listed at 211, and I see this over and over and over. And so these people are missing out on $80,000+ of their hard-earned equity just because they try to save $3,000 to $6,000 in commission. It happens over and over and over again. So that's what I mean when you pick an agent. Look back, I'm sure I said it a minute ago, the agent had sold 2 properties here in the last 12 months. Now, if you think about that, they're a full-time agent. Are they desperate? Yeah. Would that be something that makes them more likely to maybe price it below where it should be? Yeah. And this happens all the time, over and over and over again. That's why you want someone who has a track record, who has success, because you can't gamble with your largest asset. And if you have someone who's desperate, maybe in a situation like that, they may tend to be more aggressive in price because they're just out there trying to put food on the table. And so this is why we talk about this on the show every week. If you want to know more, if you want to see the actual, I did a whole video on it. You can just go to Google Sloan Realty Group, go to our website. It's on the blog. I did a video. It's got the address, price. It shows you on the back end what the price was. Like any agent, a brand new agent can have looked at that website and said, hey, this is probably worth $300,000. It's super simple. But they didn't do that, and they gave away 80+ grand. So if you want to know more, reach out, call me, 843-808-SOLD. Take a quick break, right back here in a second.
Constantly changing. Now, here to give us more insight into this is my friend Blake Sloan of Sloan Realty Group. Now, I know certain programs make it a lot easier for the seller. Which ones do you offer?
Hey, Sean. In addition to our traditional program that sells your home for top dollar, we have an instant offer, a multi-offer, and a guaranteed offer program. I represent a large investment fund with millions of dollars who are looking to buy homes in the Grand Strand right now.
And what kind of return can you expect from them?
Here's what I'll say. Every seller's needs are different. Some need maximum convenience, and we deliver that every single time. Some need the most amount of money, and we have a program for that as well. We have a trademark program that nets sellers up to 5 to 10% more money than traditional industry methods.
All right, great insight, and thank you for this update. Call Blake Sloan today at 808-SOLD. That's 808-SOLD. Or online at blakesloan.com. That's blakesloan.com. And consider your home sold.
Hi, I'm Barbara Morgan. I'm excited to connect with Blake Sloan, only real estate agent in Myrtle Beach that I recommend. We offer several options for home sales, which really takes away the stress.
That's right. For sellers on time crunch, you can agree to sell it on a certain date, take after the home, or even rent it.
That's great. And if the seller has a bit more time,
We use our proven marketing plan to sell it for the highest price.
work with my friend Blake Sloan and get your home sold on your terms.
Welcome back to Blake Sloan Radio Show. Market update, all kind of stuff happening in the market. Obviously, we have the election news from last week. Very, 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 very bullish about what that means for us in the real estate world. Obviously, we saw what happened in 2016 to 2020 after the last time Trump was in office. Obviously, he's a real estate dude, and he really understands tax incentives. He understands a lot of things about depreciation, which really, really help the real estate market, help values. It helps people be incentivized to build. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But looking back at the last few weeks numbers, we talk about two types of numbers here on the show. The rear view mirror numbers, that's what closed last month. We talk about all the time. To close last month, remember, it went under contract 30 to 60 days prior to that. And the one we talk about, the windshield numbers, that's like what's happening real time. I track it every single day in our office. We go through every morning in our huddle. So I have a real time pulse of what's happening because I can't advise my client based on data that's 60 days old or 90 days old, right? I don't need to know what's happening right now. And so it allows us to kind of have a pulse real time based on what's happening. And so that's what we talk about here. And we track how many properties went under contract in the last 7 days in the marketplace. Right now, 458 properties under contract the last 7 days. It's down from last week. Last week's show was 484. The biggest reason that there's just a lot of people who were on hold right up to election. We'll talk about that. I had some data here, national data that shows usually in each election cycle, October, November is down 15% nationally in terms of people buying properties because there's that hesitation. We had so many people that are just hesitant, right, to see what happened. If the election was election stolen again, right? Things like that. And they were kind of just in a hold pattern. And so ultimately our phones have been blowing up. So I expect, if you listen, turn in next week, I expect this number to be much larger. Right now, 458 properties under contract for 170 million. Last week's show was 44 for 185 million. But some big properties, one property at $2.4 million on the waterway in Grand Dunes, 11 properties over $1 million under contract, 84 properties over 1 million. So lots of big stuff that's still moving. 84 properties over 500,000 was that second number. 11 properties over 1 million there. Inventory has continued to climb. So last week there was 1,429 properties active for sale in Horry County. They're single family homes. This week 1,446. So up about 16 properties there overall. But we're going to see that bounce back, in my opinion. It's still super healthy for this shoulder season. Summer numbers, you see about 200 million every 7 days right now. We're at 170 million, which I'll take it, especially when we have rates that have been hovering above 7% up until Friday, which is great. And so looking at last month's numbers, there was actually a bump in closed sales up 13% from the same month last year. That comes from, if you guys remember, about 30 to 60 days ago, interest rates dropped back into the very low, the mid to low sixes, which is great. So mid sixes it was at. And so it went from high sevens to mid sixes, which is great. Lots of buyers are jumping like crazy. Those deals finally started to close. So November did pretty good. October did pretty good at 472 properties closed, which was up from the previous month at 429 in September. We did peak out this year in sales at 543 properties sold in May. And that kind of seems to be both in condos and in resale properties where the market peaked out this year. This is the concerning numbers. The first time we've seen both average and median price declines, even though it's not very much. The overall median price is down 1.6% right now at $375,000. Average sale price down 1.5% at $461,000, but it's been down almost every single month since May. May it peaked out at $520,944. Right now we're at $461,000. So about a $60,000 difference right there. Just since May, we've seen change, and it is seasonal right here and there. It does bounce around a little bit, but that's significant in terms of how it's bouncing around where it did peak out at an all-time high in May. The one thing that's been protecting price overall has been inventory. Inventory right now was down a little bit month versus month at 4.3 months of inventory. That low interest rate run kind of took some inventory off the market. Right now, single family homes, 4.3 months of inventory is still a seller's market, meaning the seller has the advantage. Anything less than 6 months is a seller's market. Inventory is up 30% from the same time last month overall. If you look at showings per listing, it's still very low. It's down 12.5%. So buyer traffic is still down significantly. Obviously, has a lot to do with interest rates. 3.5 showings per listing is the average amount of showings each listing gets. The problem, we talk about this all the time, how many showings does it take on average to get a contract? 13.6. And so the math there, right? Average listing gets 3.5, but it takes 13.6 to get a contract. You can see the problem. Most listings just sit there, and that's why the agent you choose matters. That's why you need an agent who has marketing dollars behind it, and why it needs to look great online so you can get differentiation. Because what I do as a marketer, I'm basically a marketer in real estate business, right? That's my forte. I can't force someone to buy your house. I can't make them like it. I've just shown thousands of houses in my career. I can show them the cabinets and do all this stuff, but they know in 2 seconds if they like it or not. And so what I can do that allows me to change the outcome much easier is I can drive much more traffic online to it, much more eyeballs. The more people that see it, the more people that see it and view it, the more likely they are to click the button to view it. And then once they view it, if I can create more showings, that's how I create more demand for the property, increase the chance someone likes it, then they come in and they write the offer on it. That's something that works very, very well there overall. So that's something there to keep in mind. If you look at condos and townhouses, they're down 13% from the same month last year. They've been getting hammered overall in terms of just sales in general, if you look what's happening, but not quite down as low as it was, how it has been. Average sale price, ironically, is up 6.2%. It did bump up last month, was a little bit shocking there. Right now, up 293,000. I think some areas just saw some prices that people scooped up and thought were a great value. Median price is flat, zero change since last year, 245,000 even. The one concerning number is inventory. Right now, there's 7.0 months of inventory for condos, which is up 66% overall, which is a lot, right? And that's been a long time since we've seen that happen. I think it goes all the way back to the last time we had 7 months of inventory was all the way back, I believe, in 2017. I got to go back 10 years in my graph here. So last time we were at 7 months was all the way back in January 2017. And so it's been that long since there's that many condos in the market. You're probably going to see price soften a little bit more because we always know it's supply and demand driven. And so that has a lot to do with insurance issues, right? HOA issues in terms of increased costs, special assessments, financing challenges. There's also been some overlays where Fannie and Freddie Mac have an overlay for a second home or investment property. So let's say the average rate is 7%. Sometimes investors are paying 8 and 9%, which hurts the value in terms of their rental numbers. And so there's multiple different things that are hurting condo market, really here, Florida, lots of different areas. So that's something we'll continue watching. We've been very, very successful still getting condos sold as long as we're in the same sandbox price-wise. We're able to differentiate that. We're in a very, very interest rate-driven marketplace right now, like we mentioned. So last week, our rates popped up after the election. The big question is, if anybody wonders why, is what happened was, obviously, when it looked like Trump was winning, and then obviously when Trump won, lots of money went to the stock market. You saw the stock market soar. Anytime the stock market soars, there tends to be less in the bond market, which the bond market is what drives mortgage rates, right? So the better the stock market does, worse the bond market does, which affects interest rates a little bit. But thankfully, there was a Fed meeting on Thursday. They lowered quarter point, which indirectly affects the bond market in a way through just how money moves, and rates came down a little bit. And so last week's show at 7.09, it peaked out last week at 7.13. Right now we're in the sixes, which is awesome. 6.98% for a 30-year fixed rate right now, which is awesome. If you look at a 15-year fixed, 6.45%, which is great. 30-year jumbo loan, 7.2%, which is great. A 30-year FHA loan right now, 6.48%, and a 30-year VA loan, 6.5% right now. And so we're thinking, everybody in the industry is kind of talking about, we're going to probably see that continue to come down here, hopefully towards the end of the year, in the first quarter. There's lots of people who have been holding back, waiting for the election, who are jumping back in right now. If you're thinking about selling, it's a very, very, very good time. Even though you're seeing the holidays come up, you want to take advantage of all this pent-up demand. So pent-up demand buyers right now have been waiting the sidelines for really the past 2 months, fearful of what would happen with election. There's a lot more people who are a lot more confident right now. You can hear it in their voices when we're talking to them. It was just like amazing on the phones the next day on Wednesday talking to people. And so we have lots of buyers coming in. If you're thinking about selling, reach out, call me, 808 sold, or you can go to blakesloan.com, get an instant home evaluation, and you'll also get an instant cash offer on there as well. We'll take a quick break right back here in a second. Let's just do one commercial then. Just one, yeah.
Hi, I'm Barbara Corbin. I'm excited to connect with you.
Hey, WRNN listeners, Clay Travis here. As investors in real estate, Buck and I both know exactly what to look for to find the agent with the best tools and marketing to get the highest sales price possible for a home.
Totally true, Clay. And here in Myrtle Beach, that agent is our friend Blake Sloan of Sloan Realty Group. If you need to sell a home and buy a new one, ask Blake about his guarantee.
Get this, Blake guarantees to sell your home at a price and deadline you agree to, or he'll buy it himself. And since you know what your current home will sell by and for how much, you can buy your next home without worrying about getting stuck with two mortgages.
There's simply no other agent in the market who has a guarantee that will line up against what Blake Sloan can offer you. So when you're looking to sell and buy, he is your guy. Read nearly 750 five-star reviews by Googling Sloan Realty Group. Give Blake a call today and start packing. That's Sloan Realty Group.
And tune in to Blake's show Saturdays at 9 a.m. and Sundays at 11:30 a.m.
Welcome back to Blake Sloan Radio Show. Hot Buyers Alert. My team and I are working the ridiculous amount of home buyers looking to buy properties in the Grand Strand, Myrtle Beach area. Anywhere really from $250,000 to $4.4 million. If you're thinking about selling, call us immediately, 843-808-SOLD. That's 843-808-SOLD. One thing I've been doing for a long time here is putting my money where my mouth is. A lot of agents, they just wait till they get the listing, they put the sign on the yard, then they start working. Here, we've been spending lots and lots, pretty much six figures a month. Our marketing budget last few months has been right at $95,000 a month, driving traffic from all across the globe. And I don't say that to brag. I just say that to say we get maximum exposure for our clients, and how we're able to do that is through our unique business model. We have a team of buyer experts. We're much more efficient in our follow-up. We make about 16,000 phone calls a week just in our team. While, if it's a single agent, they're out there playing golf 3 days a week and not really following up with leads that even come to them. With us, we're super aggressive in terms of marketing, our follow-up. And so we're able to match up buyers and sellers. So if you're thinking about selling, reach out, call us. Right now we have 78,343 active buyers. Again, 78,343 active home buyers from all across. I've got Sean right now from Waltham, Massachusetts. I got Sue Price from Myrtle Beach. I got Erica Douglas from Chicopee, Massachusetts. Salisbury, North Carolina. I got Newhouse, California, Mabane, North Carolina, Providence, Rhode Island, Seattle, Washington, Elmira, New York, Grantham, North Carolina, all over the place. And so if you're thinking, I got Provo, Utah. If you're thinking about selling, reach out to us. What makes a difference? Well, we have 78,000 plus buyers looking to buy a property. And so we have what we call buyers in waiting. They can be matched up within minutes. We're able to sell properties much faster, create more demand, and we're much more aggressive in terms of our follow-up. And so we like to make you our next success story overall. Call me, 843-808. So really quick, awesome success stories here. Pat owned a townhouse that she used as rental property in Myrtle Beach. The tenants moved out. She found the house to be less than really perfect condition. She wasn't sure exactly what to do. She didn't know if she should fix it up, then sell it, or try to sell it as is. She met a few investors, quickly found they're only paying pennies on the dollar. Thankfully, Pat heard about our guaranteed sold system from our billboards all around town, decided to give us a call. We met with Pat. Sure that we had tons of buyers looking for properties just like hers. I designed a custom plan, also Gold Marketing Blitz, professional photos, virtuality walkthrough, drove massive traffic in just 24 hours. Pat received an offer above asking price. The best part, it was as is, no repairs, no nothing. Now she can move forward, didn't have to put any work into it, put maximum dollars in her pocket. Also, Mike and April, they're amazing past clients of ours. They sold a property in Georgetown last year with us. They recently made a decision to move to Las Vegas to be closer to the sun. They had a perfect home in Vegas they want to make an offer on, but need to sell their beautiful house on the river, which is luxury river house in Georgetown, to be able to buy the home there. The challenge was to get top dollar for the one here. And obviously, they knew who to call first. We came in, met with Mike and April, got started right away. Within 1 week, Mike and April had a fantastic offer in the luxury river front home in Georgetown. We made it work out perfectly to close on the exact date they were buying the one in Vegas. And we made that delicate dance work out perfectly. And so if you want the same thing, you want to have true expert service, true expert advice, reach out and call us, 843-808-SOLD. You can also go to blakesloan.com. We have an amazing tool online where you can get an instant cash offer, but also track all your properties. It's free. We won't hassle you. I pay lots of money for the service. It pulls every data source online, and you can have your own dashboard to view all of your properties with. Just go to blakesloan.com, put your address in there, save it. We'll see you back here at the same time next week.